Hi, everybody. Welcome back to the Be There in 5 podcast. I'm Kate Kennedy, your host. As you know, Be There in 5 is a long-form millennial zeitgeist pop culture podcast. We talk a lot about internet culture, and more often a solo host, but I like to bring on guests on occasion that I especially think are doing something interesting. And my guest today, named Chelsea Anderson, was highly requested in the FB group. She's really taken Instagram, TikTok by storm over the last 6-ish months. And she's just providing like brilliant advice and hacks for parents, for millennial gals, for people, you know, amidst an existential crisis all day, every day these days. She is the woman behind the Chelsea Explains account on Instagram and TikTok, where she shares everyday hacks for like helping toddlers behave or craft prompts for creative and easy activities. She shares her Taylor Swift collages, her gift giving, her party hosting ideas. She'll share life hacks from CIA documents she reads and all kind of other fun things. And she just is creative and consistent and is putting fun content out there. And I was especially taken with her babysitting content because she'll like open with some super confident statement like, you know, I'm the Michael Jordan of babysitting and here's how I do XYZ. And it's just like really simple reframes and like kind of make believe or ways to position things to your kids to make doing things that they'll resist a lot more fun. And like from the lens of a babysitter who I think it leaves you a little bit more space to be creative, because when you're doing it more in spurts, I think your energy is, you know, less depleted. But it gives parents ideas for things that like can be hard for you to get out of your own head when you're kind of just like going through the transactional motions of trying to get through the day and get through the schedule. And resistance can be really frustrating in those times, but having like fun ways to keep the vibes positive and get kids to comply is, I don't know, something I was very interested in as I'm raising a toddler. But she does so much more. I actually think, fact checking as we speak. She literally, I think, started this in October. This is unreal. She went from, I don't want to say zero. I'm sure she had friends and family aplenty, but since October has garnered 742,000 followers on Instagram. Do you know what a big deal it is? Do you know how glacial Instagram growth is for most people? Like, it's pretty unreal. It just goes to show how engaging her activity or her content is. I even think she is writing like AI pop music lately. I need to catch up with her. But she's a delight. Oh, and what's funny is when she sent me her bio before we recorded, she was at 525,000. Now she's at 742, just a few weeks ago. Her meteoric rise like blows my mind as a creator, but as a parent, I just like her fun, connective, and honest content. And our conversation spans from chatting about her meteoric rise, but also her content creation process, her advice for creators, getting a peek behind the curtain of everyday life, and plot twist, she still has a day job, which is in marketing, which makes a lot of sense. But whenever I ask people to record that are like up and coming in the digital creator space, I'm like, how's 2 p.m. Tuesday? And it's like, oh God, duh. It's like even more fascinating to me to have the energy and creativity to do such a good job and still have a day job. And I'm wildly impressed. We also snorkel through some millennial nostalgia that relates to her content and connecting to her inner child with her hacks. And dare I say, she just really feels like one of us Beths. And that is probably why you guys keep requesting her. And she's a goddamn delight. And I hope you enjoy this conversation. But first, here is a word from our sponsors. Then we'll dive in. Okay, I'm glad I'm back talking about this advertiser because when I tell you I love them so much, I've spent so much of my own money recently. I'm really obsessive about trying to create like a hotel style bed, and I watch a lot of like TikToks about it. And I did that in my home with Cozy Earth bedding. I started with just sheets, but then I was like, nope, need bamboo blankets. Nope, need duvet, need duvet cover, need shams. And they have this thing called a cuddle blanket that I showed you guys on Instagram last week. I just bought a second one. I know I'm indulgent, but coziness is all we can do in trying times. And it is like a double-sided fur blanket that's not only gorgeous, it's like substantial and kind of like weighs me down while I sleep. I have one in an extended size that's so heavy. I will drag it around, but rarely go up and downstairs. So that's why I got one for my downstairs, if that tells you how substantial this blanket is. It's not that it's too hard to carry. It's a weighty, substantial blanket that I just want to keep on my bed and keep nice and have one devoted to sleeping and then one devoted to like couch lounging or my office that's like a normal size. So they have a big one and like a more throw blanket size. Cozy Earth's bamboo sheet set, for example. It's ultra soft, temperature regulated, sustainably crafted, Their bamboo sheets bring like literally the luxury of a 5-star hotel to your bedroom. It's amazing for keeping warm on chilly nights, but the sheets also kind of adjust to your body's temperature, keeping you cozy without overheating. Consider like how many children's clothes are made from bamboo for that exact reason, because we care about temperature regulation. And they're bamboo pajamas that I've told you guys about because I love that they come in talls, which PJ pants notoriously are high waters on a long inseam. And once you try Cozy Earth's best-selling PJ set, you literally won't want to wear anything else. I just sent Kelly some. They're made with viscose from bamboo, and they're cooling, breathable, effortlessly luxurious. I think it's like the perfect thing to send someone who like you're thinking of is going through a time, birthday, like literally anything. It's just a nice gift that you'll use. I love Cozy Earth for helping us create a sanctuary within our homes. So it's something high quality that helps me get excited to go to bed when I'm a person that rages against bedtime, and the softness is superior, and they truly get better with each wash, which is like huge to me. And they have a 100-night sleep trial if you want to try, and a 10-year warranty, just to be clear, in case you're on the fence. I just want the beds to stay cozy all winter long, and Cozy Earth makes that possible. So you can get 40% off your purchase at cozyearth.com, or use my code BeThereIn5 when you check out. If you see a post-purchase survey, let them know you heard about it right here at BeThereIn5. Don't wait. Comfort like this is calling your name. 40% off your purchase at cozyearth.com/BeThereIn5, or use my code BeThereIn5 when you check out. This show is sponsored by LiquidIV because my life is brought to you by my child's germs. If you listen to this show, that I have a tense relationship with hydration culture. People on the internet telling me to be slamming gallons of water around the clock. It doesn't do it for me. I can't handle it. And I want an efficient way to drink just an adequate amount of water for a human woman, but to get a little bit more bang for my buck, electrolyte, nutrients, and hydration-wise. And LiquidIV is amazing because what they want you to do is kind of break the mold, to have your own ritual. And while I don't think for most consumers that mold is probably that they, aren't very into hydration, but what I'm saying is I just want someone to tell me the type of hydration I need to feel good. And LiquidIV is how you can break the mold and own your ritual. Just 1 stick and 16 ounces of water hydrates better than water alone. That's what I mean by efficiency here. Like, I am getting more hydration than just 1 16-ounce glass of water. LiquidIV HydroScience is an optimized ratio of electrolytes, essential vitamins, and clinically tested nutrients that turn ordinary water into extraordinary hydration. 3 times the electrolytes of a leading sports drink, which is crucial for me while I am just fighting off these germs left and right. And I swear this is what keeps me well. I also will not go board a plane without LiquidIV. I am dry as a lizard if I do not partake in it. I just get a water bottle, the old Hudson News, pay $26 for it, 1 stick, and I am hydrated and ready to go when I arrive at my destination. It has 8 essential vitamins and nutrients, and I also think that's why I'm so inclined to take it when I'm trying, not to get sick. But whether you're working out, it's been a long night, the 3 to 4:30 p.m. energy slump that I face during the workday. And my husband and I are both like very avid drinkers of LiquidIV. We've kind of moved over to hydration multiplier sugar-free, specifically raspberry lemonade. Now, sugar-free has great flavors. Raspberry lemonade, white peach, rainbow sherbet. Speaking of, I don't think we talk enough about how important rainbow sherbet is to culture and what it meant to me as a child, but another day. But sugar-free raspberry lemonade is delightful. The notes are bright. They're ripe. Head notes of freshly picked raspberries and finishes with a citrusy, zesty lemon. Ideal mouthfeel. The whole thing. And if you want to embrace your ritual with extraordinary hydration from LiquidIV, get 20% off your first order of LiquidIV when you go to liquidiv.com and use code BeThereIn5 at checkout. That's 20% off your first order when you shop Better Hydration today using promo code BeThereIn5 at liquidiv.com.
Growing up, I was the Michael Jordan of babysitting. I'm the best babysitter in the whole world. I can make any kid do anything. It's because I understand kids. We have the same hobbies, like stickers, and the same extreme views towards stuff like bedtime. And if you understand someone, you can get them to do something. You can tell them a good enough story, they'll do anything. You got some kids who don't want to put on their PJs. You gotta have a PJ fashion show. Because I can get kids to do anything. Even hard stuff, like shutting the fuck up and eating their vegetables. I can get them to do both those things at once, actually. You know what they love to do? Be my pet bunny. Something about becoming a pet bunny transforms children into these compliant, silent, vegetable-eating beings. They'll go through an entire platter of crudité without saying a single word if they're a pet bunny.
Hi, everybody. Today we have on the Be There in 5 podcast, Chelsea Anderson. She is the creator of Chelsea Explains, a viral is an understatement. We need a new word for the growth of this account. Instagram and TikTok account that's grown over, well, I'm laughing now because when she sent me this bio, it was 525,000 followers. I believe I looked today and it was 648, and that's in a matter of a week. Known for her signature mix of humor, honesty, and a touch of snark, Chelsea shares clever hacks and fresh insights that resonate with moms and millennials alike, from navigating everyday chaos to tackling big feelings. Her content brings creativity, whimsy, and actionable advice to everyday slog, making life a little bit more fun along the way. I'm obsessed with this creator. I think she's a genius. I'm so excited to have her here. Chelsea, welcome to Be There in 5.
Thank you so much. I am so excited to be here.
My listeners know this about me, but like you often will open by saying like you're the, Michael Jordan of babysitting, you're the Houdini of babysitting. And I would say I'm the ray gun. That break dancer from the Olympics, maybe like the Gigli.
Oh my gosh.
Everything I've ever done with a kid is a major flop. I have trouble getting in their head. This is so fascinating to me. Tell us how you got started. In general, well, one of the best in the Facebook group said her ideas are truly brilliant and she has so many of them. I'm dying to know about her background in career. She has such a unique approach to people and psychology. Care to share your background and how you got here?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I was a nanny for a very long time, all through high school and in college, and did a lot of babysitting. And I think through this process of running this account, I've realized something that's unique about me that I did not know at all was unique, which is that I remember like every thought and feeling I had as a kid and not just events. And I thought everybody was like that, but I'm finding out more and more that that's not totally the case. So I think that's one of the ways that I have always thought of hacks is I relate deeply to kids. And so it's kind of like a child simulator in my head where I can be like, would that work? And then I'm like, yeah, I would like that if I were a kid. And it's pretty accurate. So that's just always been easy for me. And I love kids. I don't babysit professionally anymore, but a lot of my friends have kids now. So the whole account started, I was just hanging out with some of my friends and their kids. And I was like, oh, I'm so good at, making them love me, which is just the best feeling when little kids are clinging to you and they want to play with you. And I came home and made the first video about the PJ fashion show. And I think it was like 2 days later, my phone was just exploding. I had never even talked to camera before on my account. I was not setting out to be a babysitting influencer. But I was like, oh, if people like that, I got 1 million of those. And that's kind of where it all started.
Okay. Can you tell people what PJ fashion show is? Because I think that was my gateway too. And it's such a good idea. Who doesn't love a fashion show at lunch or bedtime?
Fashion show at bedtime.
Exactly.
It's just a very simple thing. And a lot of my hacks kind of go around this theme of just make it play, make the thing you want the kid to do, just, marketing, make it more attractive. So PJ fashion show is just when I would babysit, instead of asking the kids to go get on their PJs, which I know is difficult for parents. And I also think it's difficult for babysitters because that signals to the kid, like the fun's about to be over, all the fun stuff we did. So that was always when the meltdowns would kind of start. And so the PJ fashion show is just, a game where let's go put on our PJs, we'll play a song and kids will strut down the hallway or whatever. And they can't show up without their teeth brushed because, they need to have sparkly smiles for the fashion show. And it's very motivating to kids. Sometimes it even surprises me when the hacks work, even though I've done them. They're always like, oh yeah, I want to do a PJ fashion show. So that was the first video. And then I kind of left it on a cliffhanger of, I didn't do this intentionally, but I was like, yeah, and I got hacks for after that too. And then that's really where the moms were like, what are the hacks for after that?
Well, I think what's funny is, I don't know if you were initially targeting specifically people that were babysitting, but it was parents that were like, wait, it almost reached an unintended audience that could use the same information.
Totally. And I think I had no set target in mind. I don't know. I wasn't really thinking that hard about it, but it is funny now when I get a message from an actual nanny or a babysitter, because that's such the minority. If someone's like, I'm actually a babysitter. How do I, do X, Y, or Z? I'm like, oh my God.
Oh, for sure. And because on this podcast like a few years ago, my sister was like a super babysitter like you were. And I've kind of always been like, there's kind of a running joke that I went to visit my sister's kindergarten class and she told me to like ask them to pack up their things. And I told them to consolidate their belongings. Like that. It's like, I have trouble like switching to speak to kids and relate to kids. And I just feel like kids have an aversion to me, but I think kids can smell fear. I think they like can sniff out your weaknesses. And I think I'm really insecure and intimidated by kids. And like, I don't think they really take to that well. Whereas like my husband, for example, he's not nearly as like chatty or try hard as me. Kids love him.
Yep.
Moth to a flame.
It's so funny. They absolutely can smell fear. And especially as a babysitter or a nanny, I'm like, your window to establish that they like you, but also respect you is like 30 seconds. That's like, they'll make their choice that quick. But it's the same for my husband. And it's funny because my best friend, her baby doesn't love me. Like he's getting there. But he has stranger danger, and both his parents are brunette, and they try to soothe my ego by saying it's all blonde people that he's kind of afraid of. But he sees my husband, and he'll just like start doing a slow clap. He's like, I'm like, he's doing nothing. I'm doing the whole show. I'm making faces. I'm letting you bang on stuff. And my husband just walks into the room, and he's like, oh my God, the coolest guy I've ever seen.
But you do have a hack for babies that is so effective so my son is 17 months old, like almost a year and a half. And it's like literally our only bit because it's the only thing that's stuck. And it's like once you get him slap happy, he's there, but it takes a minute to like get him there. He's very selective at what he finds funny. But yeah, suggesting his feet smell bad is like the best stand-up routine he's ever seen, to the point now where every time he sees me, he like waves in front of his face. It's like our thing. And I'm like, well, this is funny that it's our thing, like telling each other we smell bad. But it was, to your point, so funny to him. He's done it every day for like a month now. It's the longest we've had a bit in his life.
That one cracks me up because it's so universal. Like I loved reading the comments on that of just pretending your baby's foot is stinky. There were comments that were like, this still works on my 6-year-old. And I'm like, there is just something across ages, children, that just never gets old. And that hack honestly needs a warning on it because they want to do it over and over and over. And I joke that like my friends' babies greet me feet first, and they really do. They're like, do that thing.
That's what's also funny about having a kid is like once you find a bit, the repetition of it is astounding at how it doesn't lose. I mean, it's hard for me to peekaboo after, 6 to 12 rounds, but the how long they can go, it's just like, it is funny. And what I like about a lot of your hacks is that they're minimal adult effort, high kid effort. So it's not like I think where people get angry with like parenting advice is really high effort stuff, like Pinterest mom stuff, it's not that it's like personal, but people feel like they don't have time, they don't have energy, they're doing the most but you providing examples like, okay, you need 20 minutes to yourself. Be like, okay, before bed, I want to watch a musical. I want to see a skit, see a play, and they go off and plan for 20 minutes. It's like, well, how hard? Like that's an amazing way to get a few minutes to yourself.
I know. And I loved in the comment section of that one, all the adults being like, hang on, my aunts and uncles didn't really want to see the musical I made up all this time. And so it's like, oh, I love that other people had experiences with that. But I also think, when I started doing all this, I was so young. The age gap between me and the kids wasn't that huge. I was like 13 maybe, and they're 7. Yeah. So it wasn't that. And then I'm like, I don't know. This is a lot of work. And I don't want to do that much work. So I would just kind of come up with these little things, and they were into it because they're like, oh, you're playing with me because you're kind of a kid. You're kind of not a full grown up.
Like
and
cooler. You're like a teen. Yeah.
Yeah. And then I don't know that I'd be able to come up with these quite as easily if I started fresh as an adult. But since it's just been a long string of years, I don't know. I'm still in that kind of like just play with them mentality. Yeah. But also, I was a teenager. Like I wasn't trying to do the most. I was
right.
Wanted the easiest way to keep everyone happy.
I loved babysitting as a teen/tween, mostly because I like to see what kind of snacks other people had.
100%. And I did find like weird correlations too. I was like, houses that have bad snacks have worse behaved kids. I don't know why that tended to be. But if I like walked in and there were just like really, really good snacks, I was like, tonight's gonna be
Dunkaroos, slam dunk. I feel like that's an interesting point because the places, I would like loosely correlate that too, where there's kind of, before there's a name for it even, like a crunchier mom, no artificial flavors, colorings, like a stricter situation with like the kind of snacks you get at Whole Foods that you have to like take out of the vendor thing yourself. You know what I mean? Like we're crushing our own peanut butter. Like life is bland. I do feel like sometimes those would be like the craziest kids who would obsess over those things the most because of, likely having it withheld from them. And sometimes you go places where it's like a fruit roll up free for all. And the kids were like pretty chill. And what was crazy is I was, elbows deep in the snack bin. They weren't, because I didn't have that stuff at home.
Same. And I do think, every kid's different. Like I still am so just sugar crazy, and I always have been, that it was really not an option for my parents to just have like sugary snacks at our house. Mm-hmm. Like me and my dad would finish them immediately. But my brother and mom can be so chill about like, oh, we'll have a couple peanut M&Ms. And I've never been that way. So I'm like you, when I'd show up and there was the good snacks, I was like going crazy, and the kids were like, it's not that big of a deal.
To your point about starting when you were 13, this is something I've talked about with podcast listeners a lot that I'm obsessed with that does not happen now. Millennial women were babysitting when we were babies. I don't know why, but like when someone turned like, I joked that it's 10, but it was more like 12. It's like somebody turned 12. Like you were just about to outgrow limited 2 sizing. And it's like the alarm went off and neighborhood moms started asking you to watch their kids while you took another one to swim practice, or like a mother's helper type vibe. And I just feel like we were disproportionately young to what you would ask to watch your kids today. Do you feel like that's accurate?
Oh, I think back on it and I'm like, these parents were letting a 16-year-old just drive their kids around. I mean, I had learned to drive 5 minutes ago. Like, and I think on one hand, it's like you don't have a ton of choice. There weren't like the care.coms or the things that there are now. And I think too, I don't know, like I grew up in kind of a suburban neighborhood. So there's some sense of like, we all know each other. So there's almost like a vetting by I've met your parents.
Totally.
Type of vibe. But looking back at how much, I don't know, responsibility I had and for how many hours at a time too. Because I'm like, that's a long time. Something could go wrong. Like kids are crazy.
Something could definitely go wrong. And it so often doesn't. And we did an episode where people like submitted their like funny stories or horror stories, and like kind of a universal theme that we've all kind of scratched our heads about in hindsight is like not understanding that if the parents come home in a silly, goofy mood, that they had been drinking.
Totally. And I have like such 2 distinct experiences, because there was nannying, which was like my longer term kids that I would see all the time, and I would almost never see them at night. And then like babysitting, where the parents are like, oh, it's our night out, we're going to go crazy. And I even had situations where like they didn't come home.
Yes.
I'm like, it's 1 a.m. They're
not
like,
answering their phone. They say midnight and it'd be past 1 and no one's called. And you're just like,
I'm like, I have chemistry tomorrow at 8 a.m. Like, you got to get home.
Yeah, that was like kind of normal. And you just like, I guess I'm billing more hours.
Yeah, it's kind of crazy looking back. But I'm so curious, like for you as a mom, does that like freak you out to think a 16-year-old would watch your kid? Or are you like, yeah, that's what I did, that they're capable?
I feel horrible if I am 15 minutes late to like, regular 9 to 5 childcare and asking someone for more time, even if I pay them for it. Like, I think taking advantage of somebody in their time, like, isn't something I'd comfortably do. 1, 2.
Oh, no, not that. I just meant someone who was only 16. Like,
never. Yeah, like, they're guilty on 2 counts. I would never do either of those things, even to a seasoned babysitter. But like, I don't know. Part of me is like, so are we overthinking it or what? I don't know why. I can't really access why I'm so like nervous or distrusting of having somebody else. But maybe it's because so many people have submitted stories about their hijinks. But like now you couldn't get away with any of that shit. Like even people that would like have their boyfriends come over, like you can't get away with now with the Ring cam.
Oh, that's such a good point. Yeah. Now there's like cameras everywhere and that's a normal thing. But you know what's funny? Like, even though that was not a thing, I always operated as if there were cameras.
As being spied on. Yes.
Because I'm like, the kids are the spies. The kids will tell the parents everything.
Oh, it's like dance like nobody's watching, but do things that will impress an adult like everybody's watching.
Yes.
Like I really wanted adults to like me.
Me too. And it was so funny. One time I pulled out my phone to text, I think the mom, something, and it was just a babysitting client, so not a kid I nannied a lot. And this little girl goes, "Are you going to play on your phone the whole time you're here?" And I was like, Jacques, like, I'm texting your mom. Like, do you need to see the receipts? Like, I got so nervous.
Jacques, you're so right. Oh, shots fired. That's so true. Like when the kids are old enough and competent enough to like judge your babysitting,
which starts young,
is kind of when you have to step it up. Like you can phone in a lot of stuff with babies and toddlers for sure. Part of me wonders, like, and I say this as a parent who uses this as a crutch, like if I really need a moment or need to do something else or need my kid to occupy himself, you rely on screen time. It's just like the one surefire thing that gets you some time to yourself. But in the context of babysitting, screen time as it is now wasn't the same. Like you could have popped in a VCR movie maybe, but like it just, I don't actually have memories really of even watching TV or movies until after the kids went to bed. I don't know why. Do you think that part of the creativity kind of stems from having to like, use your resources differently than you would today?
Oh, definitely. And especially with nannying where you're going to have hours and hours on end that they don't understand that you're at work. They think like
right.
You're here to play with me all day. That's your job. And I remember thinking that of my nannies and babysitters growing up. And I actually remember very specifically once a nanny telling me and my brother that her job was to make sure we didn't die, not to entertain us. And I was shook to my core. And I was like, that cannot be true. And I checked with my parents, like, well, I guess technically that's true, but wish she didn't think that or say that maybe in that way.
Do you think that's true though? I actually disagree with that statement.
I don't think that's true. And I think when I became a nanny or babysitter, like, I mean, that's such a core memory for me still hearing that I was like, I would never want a kid to feel how I felt in that moment. And of course they want screen time, but I have noticed such a difference between like putting in a movie and if I'm babysitting a friend's kids now, them on the iPad, like the glue from their brain to the iPad is super glue. It is much different. Like they can't even almost hear you when you're talking to them. And I felt like kids weren't I mean, they would get like that a little bit with maybe movies or TV, but I've noticed that I'm like, that's kind of crazy. And that's how I am with my phone. Like I'm the same.
No, I mean, my son's very young and he like he can't form a full sentence, but he can like play matching games on an iPhone. It's like very weird. That's why I love the tips though, because I think that sometimes it's like, you do feel like a bit of a drill sergeant. It's like after work, you come home and then like your role as a parent steps in during the witching hour when you have to get them to eat, get them to bathe, get them in their PJs, brush their teeth, go to bed. And like, that's like a bulk of like a lot of your quality time. And what I really like about watching your videos is like making the most of that quality time in a way that's not like necessarily adding to my list of things to do, but like reframing it to a time of like fun and connectivity that normally would just be like kind of me ordering him around. And he's like too young for a lot of it, but I'm just taking so many notes because I think it's just like, I don't know, like if I would love to see a PJ fashion show, and it makes me wonder why. And it's funny you said that people said, oh, you mean my aunts and uncles didn't like when we would do skits and musicals and plays? And I'm like, wait, is that an aunts and uncles thing? Because I only remember doing that for my aunts and uncles. But isn't that interesting that you would do that for like passersby and not your parents?
Well, and also, like, two things can be true. Like, they could have wanted 20 minutes and enjoyed the show and enjoyed the musical.
Right.
So, like, I always loved the plays and I loved it was such a win-win. But you're right that you get home and you have this list of things that you have to do, and that's already overwhelming. So to try and use your brain to make it fun, it's another task on the list. And that's why it's been so fun for me to like tell parents these hacks, because they're also just so immediate.
Yeah.
They'll DM me and be like, okay, bedtime just happened and it worked. Oh my God. But then I've noticed this hilarious like psychological phenomenon happening where parents will DM me and say, oh, I love the hack about, and then they'll list something that I've never said. I'm like, that was all you, babe. That was your imagination. I never said that. But I think they're just more in the mode and maybe even surprising themselves, or maybe just saw it somewhere else. But
yeah,
they're like attributing their own creativity or hacks to me. I'm like, I truly, that is nothing I ever said. I'm so glad that you did that. And parents are like, you didn't? I'm like, no, I think you made that up.
That's amazing. I feel like it's kind of nice that you can give hot takes under the premise of it being directed toward babysitters, but parents can absorb it, because parents are like almost programmed to be resistant to parenting advice, but not this. And I just love how confidently you deliver it. And it's just so good. Here's some of the things you've said that I wrote down as like, oh my gosh, this is like genius. When it comes to grocery shopping, I've got a problem. I don't meal plan and I don't know what to buy. And then I buy things that go bad because I forget what my initial vision was. And then I go when I'm hungry and I buy things that I simply don't need. And it's just gotten even more frustrating now that I have a kid that I need to feed. Hungry Root is the easiest way to eat healthy. It's the easiest way to have meal ideas, meal plan, and get groceries. Hungry Root is like having your own personal shopper. They take care of your weekly grocery shopping, recommending healthy groceries tailored to your taste, nutrition preferences, and health goals, especially if your family has dietary needs like anti-inflammatory, gut-friendly, gluten-free, dairy-free, high protein, and more. You can like filter by that, so you're never have to worry about getting something that doesn't fall within that scope. What's really interesting about Hungry Root is that it's not like a meal kit service where you're just sent portions of ingredients to make a meal, which is nice sometimes, but like I don't always feel like cooking. So what they do is they send you full-size ingredients and recipe ideas that include all of your, like some of your groceries, but you can also like, they're full size. So you can just eat them anyway, even if you don't want to include them in some elaborate recipe. However, the recipes are usually like 4 ingredients, pretty simple, and like really good options for the whole family. And my goal is to kind of try to get Teddy into eating what we're eating, just so I'm not making 2 things. And they have great options from not only just healthy groceries and meals, but also smoothies, kid snack sweets, ready to eat meals, salad kits, supplements, no high fructose corn syrup and preservatives, artificial sweeteners, any of that. It really is a great way to just feel good about what you're eating, to get some ideas, but not be completely tethered to them depending on what your week entails. So it's nice because you'll get like a sous vide chicken that you need to reheat that you can pair with vegetables you prep or eat raw based on their recommendation. But it also has snacks like, hummus, little hummus packs and chips for on the go, or pickles in a bag, which are like my favorite thing ever. And like really high-end candy. And like I got Swedish fish once that didn't have any of like the bad stuff in it, and they were delicious. And what a delight. So sometimes I let them surprise me, but you can filter and tailor your cart as much as you like to your needs, and then they kind of learn as you go from what you didn't like, and they can pick for you, or you can have it totally customized. It's one of the most flexible like grocery meal situations out there, which I appreciate, but also provides enough direction for people like, I was going to say too busy to meal plan, but honestly, I think my issue is more I just can't be bothered with it. It's not an enjoyable thing for everyone, even though it's something I want. You are going to love Hungry Root as much as I do. Take advantage of this exclusive offer. For a limited time, get 40% off your first box, plus get a free item in every box for life. Go to hungryroot.com/BeThereIn5 and use code BeThereIn5. That's hungryroot.com/BeThereIn5, code BeThereIn5 to get 40% off your first box and a free item of your choice for life. hungryroot.com/BeThereIn5, code BeThereIn5. Like, this is one thing you said in passing that I thought was so profound. You said take kids seriously, but not literally.
Yeah, that's a big breakthrough for a lot of anyone who cares for a child, because they're so serious. Like if you don't give them the thing they want, like the meltdown is so real. But at some point you're just like, I think you don't even know what you want. I think you just are overstimulated and you need alone time, and it's going to come in the form of a meltdown over like a string cheese or something. But yeah. It is serious. It's always serious. Like, and every parent will know that. Anyone who watches a child will know that if they're upset, like they'll make it your problem. But the thing they're upset about might not be the literal thing that they are freaking out about.
Yeah, you said it was in the context of like somebody was like, what do I do about faking injuries or like minor illnesses, which I literally did an episode about this in the fall. I was like, I'm the queen of staying homesick from school. I loved a cush bed pillow on the couch. I like, you find a comfortable situation, you find ways to get yourself there. And you said, but I would do it more often when I was like feeling probably socially or academically anxious. Mm-hmm. There was a reason I didn't want to go to school. And you said, is your owie in your body or in your heart? And I was like, that is the sweetest way I've ever thought to think about that.
Well, that I cannot take credit for. That came straight from my mom to me when I was a kid. And it was a moment of like, I was kind of shook that she was on to me. I was like, yeah, I don't actually, feel sick. I just want you to hold me and wrap me in a blanket and read me a book and, just adore me. And she was like, well, we can just do that. You don't have to be sick for that. And I was like, I don't. And it was just such a light bulb moment. And I think that's, back to kind of me remembering my thoughts and feelings as a kid, like pretty specifically, to be able to then channel that into when I see a kid doing it, I'm like, oh, I know what I've been there. And yeah, I mean, kudos to my mom. That was brilliant. She could tell I was faking it, but I did have an owie in my heart.
Yes, it's so sweet. I'll never forget that. And I also, a lot of what's it called? I don't know if, I'm not really a big consumer of parenting content, I'm going to be honest, because I think that it's a slippery slope of, your kid does something and your urge becomes like wanting to Google how to respond. Mm-hmm. And I do think, there are some people whose instincts are garbage, but I do think we have some, as humans. And sometimes it makes me, I don't know. But one of the things I liked that you said is that I agree with, that apparently can be controversial in some spaces in like gentle parenting circles, is like the key to, you say like the key to babysitting is lying. And I saw a video semi-recently that like made me want to bang my head against a wall, that it was about parents. Like the problem with having your kids believe in Santa is that when they realize Santa isn't real, they'll realize you've lied to them. And I'm like, no, I'm sorry. We're not foregoing Christmas magic for the sake of this gentle parenting philosophy. Christmas magic made me who I am. And I didn't, and when that all came to a head, I wasn't like, my parents lied. Now I'm like, holy effort my parents put in. What a gift.
Yeah, totally. And it's actually funny because I really thought I'd get more pushback for like the manipulation stuff or even my tone, which is, I don't know, can be like snarky and definitely directed not towards kids in my content. And I was actually just truly stunned that it's the opposite. I think parents are like, what do I have to lose? And then it worked. And then they said, okay, great. And the only people that have ever really commented negatively are like, I would just hit my kid. I'm like, okay, well, that's not what we're doing here.
Block. Yeah, you've got bigger fish to fry.
But anyone who has an issue with the manipulation, like their solve is much worse. And most people are like, it's play.
Right.
Like, yeah, my play I have an agenda, but if everyone's having fun, who cares?
Who cares? I kind of think your approach to social media is meta, in that like you almost approach it so confidently and like toe an amazing line of snark that isn't mean-spirited, where we're being babysat by you.
I have gotten that comment before, which makes me laugh so hard. And in the beginning, someone left a comment that made me laugh so hard. And she was like, we're co-parenting now. And I was like, I'm not even, but I think part of my secret, which I'll give away here, is that I can be so confident, is I have such an out. I'm just the babysitter. I'm not telling you that this is going to work forever or this is going to fix every kid. I'm saying that one night when I'm at your house, yeah, they're going to do the PJ fashion show. They're going to pretend to be a robot and I can brush their teeth. I never said it would work forever. So when people kind of come at me with that, I'm like, it's a babysitting channel. So I don't know. I think that kind of contributes to me being able to be so confident, because I'm like, if it doesn't work, I'm just the babysitter.
It's genius though. But it also, it could be one time only for like harder nights, but there are things that like are sticky for, just like bits, ongoing bits for a certain life phase. Like, what was the sunscreen one? Like getting kids to put on sunscreen. part of the premise of my book, One in a Millennial, is like I have a weird memory. Like I like you, I think I had so many feelings as a kid. I don't know why. I just remember a lot from my youth. And I love using that to help other people remember stuff, because I don't think people have like good or bad memories. I think you have to be kind of prompted. And when you talk about memories and nostalgia, like it kind of triggers things. But I have a distinct memory of like, going to the pool. My dad called it sauce. And he was like, you can't get in the pool until you put on the sauce. Like, and then you had to wait till it like absorbed. And it just was like such a drag. But you said something so funny, but I can't remember what it is off the top of my head.
The sunscreen one was that I would tell kids that I had special sunscreen that I bring with me that would make them invisible, but any parts they missed, I could see. So they had to be very thorough. And it only worked to adults. They were only invisible to adults, or to me. I don't even remember.
You're like 12 steps ahead. It's not just the invisible. It's they can see any parts that isn't. Shortcuts.
The bits are never fully formed when you first launch them. You're like, you throw something out and a kid's like, well, what about this? And I'm like, no, because of that. And, it slowly over time kind of grows. But kids love that one so much. And that one works. There's a very sweet spot age for that one. It's like 3 to 5-ish. Maybe by 6, they're like starting to catch on. But telling a kid they're invisible for 1 minute, which, by the way, is never a full minute. It's like 15 seconds because they can't tell time. I don't know. It's just like pure joy. And then they're like, oh, it's time to put on sunscreen again. They can't wait to have that 15 seconds of like thinking they're invisible. And it makes it, fun for everybody. And yeah, sure, it's a lie. Sue me. I'm not really that hung up on that part of it whatsoever. Do you have? I don't think most people are.
I'm at like kind of a weird age where my kid can't like understand a lot of what I'm saying, but I just like, I'm about to enter, I think, like peak tantrum territory. Do you have any like, and everyone kind of, there's, different tactics from like deflecting or distracting and like not acknowledging it to like whatever, that I don't know what the best thing is to do. But did you have any like tantrum related hacks from watching toddlers that you recall for selfish reasons? For me,
I think, and you'll know this by now already, like, there's such little people from the beginning, and different kids will need different things. Like for me, if anyone tried to kind of calm me down or ignore my thing that I'm upset about, I'm just going to escalate. It's going to make it so much worse. But my brother, very different. Like if you just kind of distract him and give him another thing, he can like calm down. So I do think it depends on the type of kid you have, and using the wrong approach on the wrong kid it's going to backfire big time. So you kind of have to try a mixture of both. But one of my videos that I made was just like, you can admit that something sucks. And kids sometimes are just like, okay, yeah. So you agree. It sucks that I have to go, I don't know, change on my swimsuit or whatever. I'm like, yeah, I agree. That sucks. And they're like, okay, now I can go do it. But even I think a tiny baby kind of understands. Like my friends' kids are a little over, they're actually probably right about your kids' age, 1 to 1.5. And I'm like, even now, like you see the gears turning in their little brains. And if you're like, oh, you dropped it, they're like, oh, I was not expecting you to react that way. Like they're so tiny. They don't even have language, but they can tell that you agree or disagree, I guess, with like the premise of their upsetness. You have to kind of experiment a little bit, but then other kids, and this is maybe for a little bit older, but one of my hacks is like a magic meltdown spray that's just, honestly, usually it was probably just water, but you could put a lavender room spray in there and spray it and say, this is another one of my hacks I would tell kids that worked on me when I was a kid, which I don't know why. Kids like love to picture grown-ups as kids. It makes everything more real to them, but I'd spray it and be like, this worked on me, like, smell it, take some deep breaths, see if it calms you down. And then they're taking deep breaths.
Which calms them down by default, yeah.
So that's a good one for tantrums. That's for a little bit older, though. I think for tinier kids, it's kind of acknowledging and then moving on. Like a little bit of both is probably the best way to go about it if I had to just give blanket advice.
I feel like I just am not convinced that I'm forming habits. Like the phases are so fast, and like it's almost like everyone around you thinks it acts like if every decision you make is forming some bad habit. But I'm like, I don't even remember what he was into on Tuesday. Like I don't know. But the sweetest is that he's definitely my child because he seeks a lot of reassurance, and he like builds a block tower and he like will like keel around and look for me to be like, you see? And the fact that he even wants to look for an adult to validate how good of a job, like that's very sweet. And that's like almost so innate to him. Like that's not really something he would have picked up. Like, that's
I
his being.
completely agree. And it's funny because I've been talking to my parents more and more about just when we were little and, their approach to us. And my brother is brilliant and so creative and like the most talented person you've ever met in your life, and just was so different than me. Like he would be building the tower and wouldn't care if anyone saw it. And I'm like, every time I put one block in front of another, I need a round of applause.
Yeah.
Like, stand up. Did you see? Yeah. But he just never was that way. And I just couldn't believe in a million years that the way my parents reacted to our accomplishments formed that. Like, we just were that way.
Totally.
And I was like, yeah, I don't know. I like the reassurance too. I'm that way too.
Where are you in birth order?
I'm the oldest.
Because
he's 4 years younger.
Okay. My oldest definitely has babysitting vibes. Because did you babysit your brother?
I mean, in my opinion, I raised my brother. I think my parents would disagree with that.
I feel like my sister babysat / raised me.
Totally. Like I invented him.
4 years is like that perfect age gap of you're not in the same school at the same time. You're not competitive, but you like look up to them. Sometimes for better, sometimes for worse. But now we're like, my sister and I are best friends. But she babysat me a lot, and she was like the epitome of what. Like the litmus test for like coolness.
Yeah. I do look back and cringe at some, I don't know, times where my brother just wanted to play with me and like just wanted to be in the room with me. And I was just like, ew, no. And I'm like,
that's character building too.
I know. And I'm like, you know what? He runs companies and he's so, but now we're so close. And it is a good age gap because, to your point, we were never in the same school. We were never really like kind of honestly really into the same things. But people ask a lot how my parents, like what they ask, how did your parents foster such a good relationship between you and your brother? It's really interesting because I'm like, I don't really have a lot of memories of them encouraging us to do anything specific together. But they were really invested in each of our individual pursuits and hobbies and our interests, and they would let us take those full throttle to the max, anything we wanted to try or do or were into. And so I think to each other, we just became interesting people. So I was just like, you're just interesting. I
love that.
And I'm like, I think that's what it is still now because we like are constantly teaching each other stuff. And it's less that we were forced to have some sort of sibling bonding thing and more that we just find each other cool and want to hang out with each other.
It's like burned in my brain, this gift he gave you that you made a video about, that it's something to do with your like exact doorstep from when you lived in New York. Is that accurate to say?
Yeah, this present was truly the craziest present in the whole world. And the video, I'm so glad the video went viral because the artist got so much attention. And
good.
He said if he fully booked up, I think his 2025 with commission work after this video blew
awesome.
up. But I loved this artist. He does, they look so realistic, but it's kind of miniatures of grungy things. So not just miniatures of anything, but like urban graffiti, kind of garbage, whatever, stuff like that. And I talked to my brother about the artist, I guess. And during COVID, we moved to Denver from New York City, and he commissioned the artist who is, he's in Australia, I think. So he's not even in New York, to make a exact replica of our door. And it's so real that when I look at it, like something happens in my brain that I'm like, this should be studied because it's so different than looking at a photo.
Oh yeah.
But it's crazy. And the level of detail is just insane. And actually what's even more interesting is he was perfect, every single detail down to all the stickers on the drain pipe that were next to our door. And I had 2 people reach out that those were their stickers. They're like, oh, that's my brand. And they saw the video or someone sent them the video. It was so cool. But anyways, yes, he surprised me with that. And yeah, I don't know. I'm just like still.
How would you describe what it is? It almost reminds me of the little mini worlds people build for bookshelves, like book nooks.
Yeah, totally. It's like a little diorama of our front door that's just so incredibly accurate that when you look at it, it almost, in fact, people said in the video, they're like, when you pulled out, I was so shocked it was Minnie. I thought he had bought you, for some reason, a whole door. Because it looks that real. And when the artist posted it on his Instagram, the first time he put a lighter, like just a Bic lighter, in the front of the door. And all the comments were like, I thought you started making giant stuff because I thought you made a giant lighter.
Well, what the hell would you do with a giant installation of a door?
And I don't know, but that's how real it looks. So yeah, it's probably like, I'm so bad at guessing, like 9 inches tall, I would say, maybe. But it's just like a little standalone door.
Was it an apartment you shared, or like your house growing up?
No, it was the apartment that my now husband and I lived in New York.
Okay, that's what I loved about it too, because I feel like there's a lot of hype in art for sketches or watercolors of like homes you've lived in before. But I'm like, what about us transient millennials that have lived 12 places in 15 years? And I kind of love the honoring of like a formative place that's like, whose facade is maybe like insignificant. Because a New York facade, the ones I had were each less remarkable than the next. Like,
oh yeah, it's like a dirty white door.
Yes, that's what's amazing about them. And I saw that, I was like, oh my God, the stickers on the drain pipe, like the sights and scenes of a younger version of you are just such important, beautiful things to cement with little mementos like that. And yeah, I just thought that was the most thoughtful thing I'd ever heard.
It was very nice. And I loved, one of the comments was like, oh, this is the cutest thing I've ever seen. And that door is so gross and ugly. And I was like, totally.
That's the point.
That's the point. But I think she got the point. I was like, yeah. And then actually it was crazy because someone reached out and said that they live there currently. And I was talking to someone who lives in the building, which was
the building?
It's at like Spring and Mulberry in New York. Like,
you have like
Melita.
Cool coordinates, because the problem is my door would be like in Murray Hill. Like,
yeah,
but I said it was like, Gramercy,
right?
Of
course. Yeah, that's to me like my probably favorite pinpoint in the entire world. And actually, I had a concept that I was like, I'm going to get 2 dogs and name them Spring and Mulberry. And I have Mulberry, but
you do have Mulberry?
But still waiting on Spring.
Is Mulberry a Chihuahua? I feel like I saw a video about you being obsessed with Chihuahuas.
I was so obsessed with Chihuahuas. No, he is. Unfortunately, I'm allergic to dogs, which is such tough. A cruel thing. But so he's technically a golden doodle, but he's all black, so I call him like a darkness doodle. He's mostly poodle, but he's
cute.
He's very smart, very brilliant. But yeah, I did want a Chihuahua really badly.
Was that in like the peak Taco Bell era?
Paris Hilton, Taco Bell.
Yeah, there was a lot of Chihuahua forward media.
Yes, they were really pushing Chihuahuas for a while. Big Chihuahua.
Big Chihuahua was going hard. That's like, so the other thing that I wanted to point out is like, you kind of, I think the through line of your content, like it's not just like babysitting, but I think it's effort. And I think, which is something that like I really love in a person, is just kind of like seeing the extraordinary in the ordinary, like putting effort into things, getting creative and crafty with things. And you just like out of nowhere were like, by the way, I have these like epic scrapbooks of like, it was either Taylor Swift albums or like concerts you went to. I can't remember what it was. And I was like, wait, she's a Swiftie? Like, this is a whole other can of worms we have to open. Can you please share what I'm referring to?
Oh, yes. I love Taylor Swift. Big, huge Swiftie. And also love collaging, love all sorts of arts and crafts. And I went through a phase. My stuff kind of comes in phases. So people are like, oh, you made so many of those. And it's like, yep. And I'll never make another one ever again. But I was in a really big, like, I'm going to make a Taylor Swift collage for every era. Because it was like the era's year.
Yeah.
And that was keeping me busy for a while. And it was, I was like, oh, I'll just start to share some random stuff and see what people think. And I think mostly I thought people would be like, shut up and give us the hacks.
No. Oh my God.
I was like, oh, they like the crafts. So that was really fun.
I love crafts. Taylor loves crafts. I feel like there's a type of person who digs a craft. I mean, I feel like if you were raised on like, American Girl catalogs and like, my mom had a subscription to Southern Living and like Martha Stewart Living, and we just were crafty people. Like and there was like, also if you were kind of quiet and reserved as a kid, which I was, the safe space was the arts and crafts table or like zone of a party or a day camp where you could bond over a shared experience, but not be forced to like talk or emote
I could not agree more. And I still do that at our parties. Like, we love to host, but I'm like, there will always be some low stakes activity for like
love that.
the people like me who want to go maybe just color something or make a bracelet. And my friends are not particularly crafty. I have a few that are really, really into crafting, but so when I'm like, craft night, they don't want to come over. But if I'm like, it's a party, and then I'm like slowly bringing out the craft supplies, like they'll bite.
I really think that I want game night to get the edit, or like craft night to get the edit game nights have had in recent years, or like even like I love a PowerPoint party before it was popular. Like now those are kind of mainstream. Like crafting is fun, and crafting doesn't get a lot of people in the door, but it keeps you seated. And I don't think I think we crafters can't lead with it. I think we have to be the babysitters and lie and say it's something else.
Totally. Or like it has surprised me because I did a series where I did a bunch of craft nights in a row, and I actually kind of sold tickets to it, but just to people I knew. Like, and I was like, you can bring a friend, and the tickets just like will cover supplies, and I need to know how many people there are. And I was really surprised by kind of the tangential people in my life who are like, yeah, not only do I want to come do that, but I'll pay to come do it or cover my supplies basically. And it was so fun. It was so much work. I was like, oh, art teachers are like the most amazing people in the entire world.
They really are.
But people were into it. And then I think people thought it was something I do all the time because I have a neon sign that my dad and brother got me that says craft night. And so I think people think that I'm having like
I have no idea why.
People are like, don't you do this every single week? And so I don't know. I just did it for a little bit. And then now I'll get texts that are like, hey, when's the next craft night? Can I come? And I'm like, yeah, I mean, I can make a craft night.
I love that. And, but I think it's like an important thing for adults to do because adults hate being bad at stuff. And I think that they don't try a lot of things because they aren't comfortable being bad at things. But when you're all bad at something in a group, it's funny. Like I did it once. I hosted like a calligraphy thing because handwriting's kind of my thing. Like I was obsessed with popular girl handwriting.
Me too.
It was kind of like my gateway to trying to like make friends and get some visibility when I was younger. And, so like you can kind of teach yourself, not a poor man's modern calligraphy, but like, you do the ups and downs and then you just on the downstrokes, you bold. Yeah. What do we call that? Not a poor man's calligraphy, but like a
like good penmanship. What you're doing. Yeah, a little flair.
And I'm like, I don't think, I think what a lot of people don't know is you don't have to have like a quill and scroll and an ink pot to look like you're doing calligraphy. You just bold the downstrokes. Like these are the hacks people need to know.
Oh my God, you are so me. I'm always like bolding the downstrokes. That's so funny.
And it's like, I think that crafty people aren't as talented maybe as people think they are. Where they found hacks. And I saw your video about the baby shower. And I have had the good fortune of learning my way around a Cricut, around a Silhouette Cameo. And if you're the token friend with the Cricut or the Cameo, people think you are a creative genius. And I'm like, no, you just need to spend like a few weekends manning this software, and then you will become your friend group or the PTA or whatever, like their token craft person, because you have everything at your fingertips.
It's so true. And I honestly, that had been my mindset for so long that I was like, it's not that incredible. You guys, look, I could teach you all to do it. And one of my friends was like, Chelsea, that's like me saying I could just like teach you to keep your closet clean. Like, yeah, technically, like you could do it. Like, but you can't do that. Or you're not gonna, and I'm not gonna spend a couple weekends learning the Cricut. Like I would never do that. And I'm like, you guys, in a short 72 hours, you did.
I know that's true. I guess I kind of, since it's so technologically, like the horsepower is like the technology behind it. I like don't consider it a skill of mine,
totally.
But the effort put into learning it, I guess I'm
like even the interest. Yeah, totally. And there's just not a lot of people who, I don't know, it's to my surprise, who want to spend that long learning how to use their Cricut.
There's a quote you have about kids that I think applies to adults too. You say like there are three reasons a kid won't do something. What are they? Uninteresting.
Oh, uninteresting, uncomfortable.
And uncontrollable to them.
Oh, yeah. Yep.
But I think the same applies in life. Because especially when like time is a resource and there's a finite amount of it. And I think when it comes to like hobbies or crafting or trying something new, like you do have to be, it has to be like interesting enough to take over the discomfort or like comfortable enough that you don't really care if it's interesting. You're like zoning out. I don't know. I think that like a lot of this stuff kind of comedically applies to adults and how we like the care and feeding of ourselves.
It's so true. And in fact, I have found adults to be much worse. Like kids are they're way more willing to be bad at something.
Yeah.
And I actually was going to make a video about this because I've been talking about my collages a lot, but I go to thrift stores and buy books that have pictures in them. So it'll be like, I don't know, it'll only have horses or castles or something or whatever. But I cut them up and put them in collages, and I will have friends over for a collage night, and I'll be like, okay, I'm going to tell you this warning. You're going to think I'm being so silly, but you can cut a book. It's okay. Like, I know this is a hardcover, perfect bound book, but I bought it at the thrift store for the purpose of doing this. Everyone's like, it's not going to be that big of a deal. And seeing adults with a pair of scissors at a book, they're like, they cannot do it. They're like, and you just cut it. And I'm like, yep, just cut it. They're like, but what if I don't end up using this picture? I'm like, that's okay. We'll put it in the folder. They're like, you know what? Where are those magazines? And I'm like, oh my God, I literally can't get adults to cut a book at my house.
That's so interesting because I don't know if I'd think to cut a book, and it would create pause. But if I was like, God, why are Chelsea's photos of horses and castles so much better than my photos of horses and castles? Yeah.
I got the best horses and castles. I'll tell you, I do.
I love that so much. Wait, but I totally forgot. I got sidetracked. But okay, do you have like, I should have told you in advance if I was going to ask you such a difficult question, but like, do you have a top 3 Taylor Swift album situation or like a top 5 songs or like ranking's impossible? I know. While you're thinking, I can give you mine. Do you have like kind of a vibe as a Swiftie you can give us?
Yes, I do. And I have the data to back this up.
Osea, you're breaking my heart. You're shaking my confidence, baby. I always want to sing that when I see Osea. And do an ad. Sorry to Osea, that was not in the copy. But it does the opposite for me. I heart Osea, and it makes me feel all the more confident. You've heard me talk endlessly about how they introduced me to body oil that kind of gives you that like red carpet on stage glow for your legs and arms. Especially for me in warmer months, that's all I use. And I put it on when I'm kind of damp out of the shower, and it like seals the moisture. But in the winter, I actually am now 3 years in of a devotee to a particular routine involving their Undaria algae body butter. Here's the thing. The skin below your neck deserves just as much love as your face. We talk about skincare a lot, but it's really face care. You know, people kind of ignore the area of far more real estate, which is your body. Your epidermis is showing of it all. It's your largest organ. I think that Osea's body butter means a lot to me in these dry winter months because I am just dry as the day is long, as the show is long. The body butter is really all I need to seal in all day moisture, and it's non-greasy. None of their stuff's greasy. And the scent is so nice, I kind of take my time putting it on. I have my specific routine is I put a few self-tanner drops in Osea's Undaria algae body butter. And it just gives me like a little bit of color, makes me look alive. The scent brings me to life because it's a natural blend of grapefruit, lime, cypress, it's like mango, mandarin. It's this really light citrusy scent that is so signature to Osea and makes me feel like I'm in Malibu, even though I'm in the depths of the tundra. And Osea's TikTok famous and Kate Kennedy famous on Undaria algae body butter. It's not your typical body butter when you think of like greasy, like too thick kind of, I don't know. It's made with ingredients normally reserved for your face, like seaweed and ceramides, but it's for your body. And it just really transforms dry, crepey skin into smooth, soft, and I mean it if I use this word because I don't like it, supple. Treat yourself to clean, clinically tested skincare from Osea. And right now we have a special discount just for our listeners. Get 10% off your first order site-wide with code BeThereIn5 at OseaMalibu.com. That's 10% off your first order site-wide with the code BeThereIn5 at OseaMalibu.com. They say perspective is everything, but, corrective lenses are also everything for some of us. And when you refresh how you see things, the world can be a more vibrant place. And just in time for spring, Pair Eyewear has 3 new colorways for their most iconic acetate-based frames. Also, when I say colorways, I feel very Project Runway or something. It's a very fashion-y term. And you can take a peek at their new Cozy Honey, Soft Lavender, and Moody Gray frames. And don't forget you can soften or bolden your look in a snap with their endless collection of top frames. In case you aren't familiar with Pair Eyewear, they're on Shark Tank. They're a beloved eyewear brand. You might see them like in ads on TikTok in passing that you're like, whoa, what just happened? Because it's really cool. You have your base frames that start at just $60, and then you get these toppers that are different colors, different prints, you rep different sports teams, different holidays, whatever you want. And you can swap them out so you have one pair of eyeglasses, but change them to match your outfit. And as a millennial that still feels plagued by like, okay, we don't mix blue and black. Are we mixing black and brown? I'm not sure. Sometimes this helps ease these color old wives' tales when I struggle to feel like I brought the wrong glasses with me somewhere. And for kids, they have like amazing collabs like Disney princesses, Mickey and Friends, Marvel, Star Wars, big kids too, the Met, NBA, NHL, whatever you like. My favorite part of Pair, however, is I don't like to always wear contacts on planes. So I need prescription sunglasses because also there's always a jerk store around the corner not willing to put their shade down. And I only have to carry my one pair of glasses. I bring a sunglass topper and it turns my prescription regular eyeglasses into sunglasses in a literal snap by just popping them on. And that way I'm only having to carry one pair of glasses when I travel. It's amazing. I also use my FSA, or maybe it's my HSA, for them, or insurance reimbursement. You can do that for purchasing your base frames. And those start at $60, and then the top frames start at just $25. And you can find your perfect frame shape at home with virtual try-on. And prescriptions can include like progressives, can include readers, blue light filtering, and more. Free returns and exchanges within 30 days, no questions asked. Upgrade how you see the world and how the world sees you. Go to paireyewear.com and use code BTIF for 15% off your first pair. And support the show by mentioning Be There and 5 Sent You in your post-checkout survey. That's PAIR eyewear.com, code BTIF. And that's F as in Frank. Also, those post-show surveys like really matter for advertisers to renew and think people like actually heard about it from the show. Podcast ads, at least mine, it's not like an affiliate kickback. All it is them just looking at data to see if like the show sends people there. So it really matters and it really helps. And I thank you in advance for your cooperation and support for this free programming brought to you by advertisers like Pair. Back to the show.
Yes, I do. And I have the data to back this up because my friends and I were very interested in this about ourselves. And two of us our boys are software engineers and they were not into the way we were doing it. They're like, no, we're going to build you a spreadsheet. We're going to make a whole thing and you'll be able to know without a shadow of a doubt what's your favorite album. And then it was so funny because my husband was looking at it. He's like, you've ranked so many songs 10s. That's perfect. I'm like, yeah.
Yeah.
And?
Yeah.
But I think, I honestly think Midnights is probably my number one.
Yeah. Midnights is, I think I love pop, so I think Midnights is outstanding too.
And it is hard to rank. I would say when I need to redo the spreadsheet. I haven't done it since Tortured Poets, but I do think my number one is You're on Your Own, Kid. Like I just
okay. It's too good.
Just like every crafty girl, every girl with a dream heard that song and was just like, it's me.
It's so true.
Such a good song. I don't know. That after that it gets a little blurrier. It's a little hard for me. What about you? I'm so curious.
I like a Taylor Swift pop moment, and I really went hard for Rep when it wasn't as popular, but it was so different for her. Like, I think I like Black. I'm not as bubblegummy. And I liked her with a bit of an edge, but it's like, I almost need to spreadsheet separate what I like in terms of a look and a vibe versus like the actual songs. And I actually would be interested in the exercise of data backed takes on what I actually prefer, because like I did before 1989 TV came out, I did like a recap of my journey with 1989. And I was like, this album might have been like one of the biggest moments for me in terms of like, I just loved it when it came out and I was so consumed by it. But the songs are such earworms that you move on from it a lot faster.
Yep.
Reputation didn't have as many of those moments. So I think I've spun it a lot longer. Midnights, when it came out, I was like, between You're on Your Own, Kid, would've, could've, should've,
chills at just you saying that.
Yeah. Like those types, I was like, and I think the bonus tracks on Midnights were so good. I was just like, oh, this is outstanding. But now I don't think with Tortured Poets that took a lot longer to marinate. And
yeah.
I still listen to it, and it came out in April, which is crazy.
It's so true, and I completely agree with you. It's almost like like the bangers, like the earworm ones, I'm so excited when I first hear them, and they're on repeat for like 3 months, but I don't go back to them as much. But I do say, and I say this all the time, and I don't remember if I made this up. I feel like I made it up, but I say like there are no bad Taylor Swift songs. There are just things you have not lived through yet. And so like at so different phases in my life, like whatever I'm going through, I'm like, oh my God. And she has a song about it. And maybe, you know, I'm in a great place in my life when I first hear Goodbye, Goodbye, Bigger Than the Whole Sky. And so I'm like, but then one day I'm, you know, Salt is streaming into my ears and I'm like, oh my God.
Right. I'm still waiting for Bad Blood or Stay to maybe permeate my being. Those are two that I just sort of, like, I think in life we need, you know, I love the theory of no bad Taylor Swift songs, things we haven't experienced yet. Plus, everybody needs 2 to 3 bathroom breaks. Like, it's just, like, I think there's some stuff that's never going to hit. And I think that as a person that doesn't get that, like, I don't really, you know how that guy in that Tinder swindler documentary talked about his enemies? Taylor Swift also talks a lot about her enemies. I don't really relate to that.
Yeah, it's so funny because I think, and I'm kind of coming to this realization of the difference because I just made a video that was like how to defeat your enemies. And some people in the comments were like...
Oh, that's funny. I didn't even see that.
Oh, really?
No.
Oh, you'll have to watch it. But there were people in the comments that were like, why do you have an enemy? And I was like, okay, I think enemy is the wrong word, but maybe like supervillain.
Yeah.
Like someone who... They're not your enemy. They probably don't even care about you, to be honest, in most of these cases. Or... I don't know. They could be
the patriarchy.
They could be totally. And it's like, I think that happens to you more if you have a lot of deep shame because people can trigger that shame and then they feel like the scariest person to you.
Totally.
And I think Taylor, like she's such a perfectionist and she wants to be so good and break all the records. And, you know, she does it. That someone, like the dark side of all that shininess is like the shame if you aren't good. And I think there are people that trigger that for her for sure. And that's maybe why she has like so many enemies.
All of her enemies started out friends.
There you go.
I think that's a very good point. And I do relate to being a person that will give the benefit of the doubt, the B of the D for so long until they're long gone is when I start to get mad. And it's almost like you're exponentially more mad because you couldn't really express that in real time or direct it toward them, and you're kind of directing it toward the sky at this point. But
that's so would have, could have, should have. Yeah, like you're realizing later how wronged you actually were.
Would have, could have, should have is art, and it'll never get its time. And like when you really dig in and learn that like John Mayer like lived in an apartment with stained glass windows and shit, it's just like, oh wow, she held on to this one, she sat on it.
It's so good. It reminds me too of kind of The Great War. There's these really catchy moments in it too, but she doesn't let it go full kind of earworm. I don't know, but
yes, I call it the Jack Antonoff blue ball. It like sometimes like songs will like really pick up and build, and it's just about to release, but then it restrains.
Totally, yeah. Like the Archer is so like that.
The Archer is the
like the beat never drops.
My theory is that she wants it to feel like anxiety, where like it's relentless and never comes to a head. But like I think that's what's funny about Taylor Swift is we give her the most favorable edit on everything ever instead of just being like, this song's not for me. I'm like, well, you see, I think what she wanted it to feel how the emotion does. She was expressed like I don't give anyone else that much of a.
Oh my God. I mean, I think about, it's so crazy how much of my brain she takes up. I saw the Eras tour 4 times. I like my last time I was at a shoot for work for a commercial, and it was in Toronto, and my friend was coming to see Taylor in Toronto. It was over that same weekend. I was like, I've already gone enough times. Like it's greedy. It's enough. And I showed up to our hotel, and the entire hotel was decked out in Taylor Swift stuff. Every floor was a different album. I lasted like 12 hours.
What
I was like,
floor were you on?
I was on the red floor. It was amazing. It was so cool. And it was funny, like the hotel's called the Bisha, and it's right by it's 2 blocks from where she was playing. I was like, come on, that's fate. But
totally.
I love Taylor Swift.
Well, I just think it's so much deeper, especially for a lot of millennial women that went so hard for the Eras tour. It's like you really do get to a point in your life where you become more defined by who you are to other people, like wives, mothers, whatever. And like then there's a lot of shame for the way girls spend their time and the things we love, and them being, whether it's because they're mainstream or popular or because they're feminine coded. And it's like, finally, for once, just an openly, honestly celebrated, non-shameful source of joy, like female joy, that you can live through all those eras when you loved that music, but maybe necessarily weren't leading with it, sang it with your chest. I didn't even know I needed to Scream 22. In my head, I don't even like that song. But like, you kind of, through her eras, find your own eras, to your point about like, yeah, this just having to have experienced her songs to like them. And no, I agree with you that it felt greedy to go more than once, because you're so lucky to go. But like, it just was the best.
The best. And I have like such a, I don't know, a reverence for women who can be girly and such a dominating force, or an incredible artist, or I don't know, and that those two things aren't mutually exclusive.
Yeah.
And when I find those women, I get just so inspired, because you don't see a lot of that. And Taylor has done it so well. And I love that. I mean, at first, I'll be honest, I was like, who are all of you people that I'm competing for these tickets with? Where the hell were you? Reputation. I bought tickets day of, front row. Like, who are you? But now I'm so glad that it got brought to the mainstream more, because I don't know. I love in her documentary when she's like, I can, like pink and glitter and want to talk about politics. It's like, yeah, why is that so crazy for people to wrap their heads around?
Right. It's because of the things that are sold to us, we're simultaneously shamed for liking.
Mm-hmm. So true.
The like moment we're like, playing Mall Madness or, Pretty Pretty Princess. Like, the goal is to just get more jewelry than your friends. And like, that's what we grew up playing.
It's so true. It's like, you guys are behind half this stuff that I like, and then you're going to judge me. And it's funny. I talked to women. I was having lunch with a friend and her friend was like, do you have any hobbies? And I was like, yeah, I have 100 million. And she was like, never mind. And I was like, oh, why? And she wanted to talk about how her and none of her friends had hobbies. And I was like, well, I'm sure. I bet you do have hobbies. Do you like to watch, reality TV? Do you like any? And she's like, oh yeah, I love that. I'm like, for men, they can watch football and that's a hobby. But for women, that's not a hobby. I'm like, that's ridiculous. Like, that's your hobby. That's fine. That is a hobby. And she kind of was like, I've never thought about it that way. And I'm like, boys are allowed to do so many of the things that girls aren't, and it be a hobby.
Totally. And the reflex to invalidate it as a hobby is so telling. And not to bring up the Barbie movie in this conversation, which would be the obvious and cliche thing to bring up, but I did have a moment of like, oh, boys don't have to put away their dolls. They don't have to put away their cars and trains. They can like them well into adulthood. But I think there was a lot of closure in it for women, because like, you don't really remember the day you put the dollhouse away, but there was a time when you were too old and it wasn't mature. It wasn't, you had to grow up. You had to move on. Yeah. And our interests are not only trivialized for being feminine coded, but also for being too youthful and frivolous. And I think that there's like such a strong attachment a lot of people have to things like Barbie or American Girl dolls, or the things you see go viral, that we don't have a lot of closure with, because we're just kind of forced to move on from them. And I love taking back the power of like enjoying that stuff, whether in real time or nostalgically, because like, who's telling you that it's not cool or not interesting or doesn't have value? Like, nobody and everybody. It's a little bit confusing.
It is. That's the war in our own brains. And it's funny. Like, I posted about my husband got me these toys for Christmas. I think the brand, you pronounce it Maile. It's spelled like Maileg, Maileg. It's like these, I don't know, and they're just so beautiful. And like, I just love them. And I had all these women comment and DM me, and they were like, okay, who are these for? Let's be honest. These are for 30-year-old women who want to play with them, because I bought them for my kid, and then I was like, don't touch them. I'm like, gorgeous. Yeah, they're beautiful. I think you're so right. Like, we don't have that closure. We're like, no, I still want to play with tiny, cute, adorable animals.
Oh, 1,000%. What are those like little critters called?
Oh my God.
You know what I'm talking about?
And there's that one girl who does like those skits with them. Is that like the calico
critters? The way I could just have a room of calico critters perfectly satisfied.
Me too. And it's funny you say, I'm like literally looking at my Beanie Babies in my like case right now and my little rat toys. And I'm like, even though I want to play with them, there was like something in me that was like, put them on display, put them away.
Yeah.
Those are a toy.
I know that was the pits, is like getting like a bicentennial Barbie, whatever the hell that means. And you have to keep it in the box. Like, that's not the point of life.
Oh my God, my Princess Diana Beanie Baby staring at me with her tag on.
You have one? You have the tag?
Yeah.
Damn.
Yeah, but it's all bent because I couldn't stop touching it because I knew I wasn't supposed to.
Yeah, don't touch the button.
Leave it alone. Did not leave it alone.
I love that. Okay, before I let you go, the one thing I didn't ask you about is your like meteoric rise. So listen, you started in October, correct?
Yeah.
Posting these videos. On Instagram, you have 650,000. To put it into, not to woe is me, but just to like as a frame of reference, like it's taken me 10 years to get like 105,000. Like this is not easy. And I laugh because you also were incredibly, like what I appreciate about you is you don't gatekeep. You're like, you told people that's how I found out about trial reels, which is actually an incredibly important thing for creators to know about that I had no idea about. And like even doing those, I'm not seeing that kind of growth. I just, similar to us undermining our crafting abilities. I don't want you to undermine the quality of your content, because trial reels and all that aside, like I think you're crushing it because what you're making is good and it's helpful, it's useful, and it's different. But like, what's that been like? Are people like, I think like GMA reached out to you? Like, are you kind of like, what's happening? My life's no different from behind my phone, but like all of a sudden I'm hearing from a lot of people.
Yeah, it's exactly like that. And I think like a very appropriate millennial reference that I feel like is like Hannah Montana kind of, because my friends are really not online.
Best of both worlds, yes.
And to them, they're like, she's Miley. She's always been Miley. But I'm like, do you know on the internet I am Hannah Montana?
Yeah, that's a great way to think about it.
Yeah, it's like everything's changed and nothing's changed all at once.
Yeah.
And I think the benefit of it happening so fast is like I haven't had a second to second guess anything or be like, oh, do people like this, or should I try to be this way? Because it's just, I don't know, I feel I'm the exact same as a couple months ago, but then I'll be like DMing someone and then I'll like double check their name and I'm like, oh my God, like I'm talking to celebrities, like this is so.
Yeah, have you heard from celebrities, like anybody that you would name?
Yeah, well, Paris Hilton just commented on a bunch of my videos. I was like,
love. I love Mom Paris Hilton.
I have always like loved Paris Hilton. I mean, I truly, like my Chihuahua phase, deeply influenced. Deeply influenced.
And to think she's using your tricks on Phoenix and London,
Can you imagine?
A gift.
Again, I feel like I'm one of a pretty niche group of people that like watches Paris in Love. I'm like in the subreddit.
I know, same. I'm like, does anybody think Kathy's a bit harsh and really feel?
Oh my God, that's so funny. Yes. Documentary. I think she's incredible and so vulnerable, and she really embodies that Taylor energy of like, I can love pink and sparkles and advocate for mental health. And
yeah, she's a Hannah Montana in her own right. Like when she drops her voice and stuff, I think it's really interesting. It's almost like she had it's not that she was like dense and ditzy. It's that she had the foresight to like separate her personas a bit and for self-preservation. I don't think a lot of people get that.
Yes. And it's funny because a lot of my friends and family watched like my first couple of videos and they were like, what voice is this that you're doing? And I was like, what do you mean? That's just my voice. And they were like, that is not your voice. This voice is so deep. And I realized like I'm alone recording those.
Totally.
And I'm like, I think my voice might be a lot deeper than I normally talk. And so that's why it sounds deeper in these videos. And I immediately was like, oh my God, it's so Paris Hilton. But I don't know. It's been crazy. And well, I think the numbers I can't wrap my head around. Like, I don't know what they mean. Like every now and then I'll go look at an influencer that I have followed for years and they have less followers than me. And I'm like, I don't know.
It's crazy. But also that's like a really interesting thing you just said that I haven't thought about a ton, but like I am a solo podcaster, which is kind of unusual. Like I talk to myself for hours on end. And I often will say like, I've kind of met myself through doing this because it's no, it's not normal to go through the exercise of speaking for hours on end and no one's talking back. So you kind of learn how you feel and you process a lot out loud. And my register is so much more dropped podcasting than it is like in the world, because in the world I'm doing a lot of performing, ironically, while I perform on this podcast, but like I'm actually not performing here. I think there's a lot more performance in how we adjust our vocal tone, that in the way it exudes politeness and pleasantry. And I often will think about like my voice when I would call a friend on a landline to ask them to play. Like, hi, Mrs. G, is Elise home? I'd like to see if she wanted to play. And like, it's that instinct you almost don't lose to kind of raise your voice when you're talking to certain people.
Yeah, so true. And I've had a experience to you as like myself through these videos, and specifically the weird exercise of when I started posting on Instagram. I'd only been uploading stuff to TikTok, so I was just making the videos and putting them up. And then I went from creator to like curator, picking the videos to like I'll pick 3 a day to put on Instagram. And now I'm watching myself through this very, very different lens to like put it on this different platform, which is it's just reposting a video. But there was something so bizarre about it, like watching myself through this other lens of also how will Instagram kind of see me or interpret this batch of hacks together.
Yeah, it's a different crowd.
It is, yeah. And it is very strange. And I don't know, I feel like some people do this and some people will think this sounds crazy, but like when you send an email and then you go to your sent folder to read it again now from their point of view, or like stalking your own Instagram after someone else follows you to be like, what does it look like to them? Like, let me try their eyes on.
Totally.
And then to do that to yourself, yeah, it's bizarre.
What I love about your arc, though, that I think is important is like, as saturated as the world is with like creators and content and influencers, this, that, and the other, and as harsh as people can be on influencers, like, I really do think that the democratization of like ideas and people and skill sets that the internet has brought is ultimately like nets positive. And I don't think that we're ever truly at a point where there's not room for everybody and it evolves. And I think your story is like such a good example of like carving out a niche that's really adding value to people and then kind of like expanding and pivoting from there. Cause I've already seen you make videos about other stuff that does just as well. And whether you want to be like ultimately making content about babysitting and kids or kind of expand from it, it doesn't matter. But like your point of entry, I think it's very telling for how people are always going to be interested in new perspectives on things and new ways to think about things, and to not be de-energized by like saturation, because that's not necessarily true.
I agree. And I think texting my friend, I love the internet. I want to kiss the internet on the mouth, because like Paris Hilton watched my video and made a comment that would never happen without that democratization, like you said. And I think the other piece of advice I would give anyone if they are interested in making content is don't try to guess what your niche is or be too strategic about it. Because if I had sat down a week before I posted that video and written 100 ideas of what my niches could be, none of them would have been babysitting. Taylor Swift, collages, crafts, like a million other things. And I think when I made the video, I was just like, what's a story I tell that people like? Like that one is just always a hit. And I didn't really overthink it too much, but I was talking to one of my friends who's been trying to grow her social media. I'm like, stop thinking about your niche. I think the internet will tell you what your niche is. Like just start telling the stories that are bangers. Like tell your A+ stories to go from there. And I don't even know why people love them so much, but I'm like, the customer's always right and all that. So I'm like, sure, I'll tell this story again. And others, it's the exact opposite, where I'm like, oh, they'll love this because I love this. And then it's like, doesn't go anywhere. And it's like, okay.
That's what's crazy is you think, as much as you want to credit stuff to strategy, like a lot of it is happenstance and just like the needing to adopt the habit of consistency. Because if you're consistent, it'll all shake out to where you'll figure out enough of your stuff that's engaging and what's not. But like overthinking it and only putting stuff up you like doesn't really work, because you find out that like the most unassuming stuff hits with people.
Oh my God. I mean, I posted a hack the other day that I'm like, 4 people will care about this, but it's to keep your fingers warm. I'm like so rushed making the video because we were supposed to leave. And I was like, wait, I meant to tell everyone this is how to keep your fingers warm. And it has, I think, 5 point.
Wait, how do I keep my fingers warm?
Okay. You look so silly doing it, but it works so well. You stand up and you lock your elbows and you flex your hands up and then you shrug your shoulders. And actually, I can do it sitting down. I can feel it. You'll feel like blood shoot.
Oh, yeah, you do.
And it keeps the circulation going. And I have really bad circulation in my fingers and toes. As to this, by far, my mood video on Instagram.
People love a thing that they can feel works immediately. Like if you're telling people to put potatoes on your feet if you have a cold, it's hard to gauge like in the moment if that's really going to work for your life. Yeah. And then once you've peeled the potatoes, put them on your feet, gotten in your bed potato-y, you're feeling like I really double down on this.
I really hope this is a real story of you.
Yeah. But for that, or like was that a CIA thing you found out, or is that like a?
No, that was a professional skier told me that. And if you watch like the Olympics, they're all up there doing this.
Yeah, they are.
They're warming their hands up.
Wow. I think that's what's cute about humans is whether you think you do or not, you have your like little hacks of how you get through your day that you've adopted like from how you were raised or what you've heard over time. And I think sharing them is like the coolest. And I feel like your CIA ones perform pretty well too. The sleep one is like so simple. I haven't tried it yet because it's so simple. I'm skeptical because I'm like a kid too, and that like I rage against bedtime. Same. This podcast is born and bred off of a person that rages against bedtime. And what is it like counting to 5?
It's literally, I was irate the next day because it worked so well. And I was like, all these years, it's just, you take 5 deep breaths and then you count to 20, like pretty slowly, but you don't time it to your breath. It works every night for me. And I do this, and I think this is important. You don't have to believe in it, but you just have to want it to work. Like you can absolutely beat it if you want to beat it. But I did not believe in it the first night, and it worked. Like 11, it worked. Wow. And at 10, I was like, this isn't going to work. And then at 11, it was like, whoosh. I was like, what? When I was writing my book, and I was having trouble like winding down or like task switching. I watched a YouTube video from somebody that said it was some military thing where like you have to like create like a beat, like, and you basically like pat your thighs. And I did it once or twice when I was like really wired, and it really worked of like creating a rhythm. And I was like, oh shit. Like it's really interesting to think of like looking this up in context of people whose work is so much more high stakes than mine, who literally have to find like neurophysical, biological ways to turn it off. Yeah. And some of them make no sense, the CIA ones. Like the pain one has literal numbers in it that you recite, and that works. It works. It's the only thing it doesn't work on, which is so weird, is cramps. Like it's never worked on my cramps. It's worked on because we never stood a chance. Everyone hates it. Like, right. Like a man wrote these codes. Right. But it was weird. Yeah, they don't know how to cure that pain. I'm like, they've never looked into that number. Yeah, of course. Not shocking. But it was weird because so many women commented or DM'd me. They're like, oh, it's worked on headaches. It's worked on other stuff, but it didn't work on my cramps. I was like, same. Wow. Put that anecdote in your pocket. That's interesting. Yeah. But the number, I don't want to just tease everyone here. It's 55515. You just think that number over and over while you like kind of circle the thing that's hurting in your brain, but it'll work for like a headache. It's amazing. Oh my God. Be there in 5515. There you go. We're all going to be doing the code. Because one time I heard like if you're having a panic attack to like really focus on counting to 40, like random number. But like the point behind that is to really concentrate on something else and to breathe. And that is like actually incredibly effective. And I've used it on other people that are panicking around me to like stop everything they're doing and just count to 40. And I'm like, I wonder if it's in picking a number that's so insignificant like 40, if people assume it's legit. Or like kind of like 5515. It's like specific because it needs to be specific, not because it needs to be that. I wonder how that came to be. I'm going to tuck this away because I have done the experiment of just focusing on the area that's experiencing pain and seeing if just that diminishes it. And no, it doesn't. I'm just become very tuned into the pain. Then I'll do the number, but I've never tried like a different number. Yeah. Like try like the first letters of like your numbers of your childhood landline. Yeah. I'm going to just generate a huge list and try it on cramps, and I'll let you guys know. Yeah. Please. I saw on TikTok once, and there's something I took into life, that when you like squeeze between your thumb and your middle finger on your palm, almost like the area they tell you to like use as a proxy to gauge how done steak is. If you squeeze that when you have a headache,
It really helps, and it does. And it's like a pressure point. And I don't know if it makes you not think about your headache or what. Before we close out, just like a few rapid fires,
Okay,
just, to get people stoked for your content, and so they'll go find you. Okay, so you have a kid refusing to brush their teeth. What would you say?
You tell them that they are your robot and that you push some buttons on them, beep, boop, beep, beep, engage cleaning mode, and then you have them walk like a robot to go clean their gears.
Clean their gears, so the teeth are the gears. Oh my God. Okay, what about like not wanting to leave the park or the playground or a play date or something social?
For that, I always do, first one to the car gets to be either the navigator or the DJ. So the navigator gets to pick the turns. I mean, it's like usually in the neighborhoods, it's like, where are we going? We'll take a couple wrong turns. Who cares? Or the DJ gets to pick the song.
Oh, that's a good one. Picking the song's huge.
It's huge. It's huge for kids. And for them to think that they're going to pick the song and the turns or one or the other, they're ready to leave.
That's such a good one. What about, like, how would you get someone, this was a big problem for my mom, because it takes me forever to get to sleep. And then once I'm asleep, I never want to get up. What about somebody that doesn't want to get up and get ready for school? Oh,
I just did one on this one. It was, try getting your doll ready or your puppy or kitty ready for school, dressing them. And to me, the reason this one works is when you're really bad at getting up, the last thing you want to do is be demanded of the second you wake up. But if you are putting clothes on a doll or brushing a doll's hair, you're caring for that doll versus like demanding something. And I just posted this one the other day, and I had so many parents DM me and be like, what the hell, it worked. They like even let me brush their hair. Hey. And I'm like, yeah, because you're caring for a doll. You're not demanding that your kid who doesn't even want to be awake right now does something.
Yeah. Yeah, it's really about getting them out of bed, and then they'll slowly just start to wake up.
And having them feel like they don't have to do anything. Mm-hmm. Like if they're your doll, you're going to dress them and brush their hair, right. And they're just more open to that than if you tried to demand that a kid wear the outfit you picked out.
And you said something so smart in relation to teens and tweens in that context, where like you said teens or teenagers are responsible for a bunch of stuff they aren't in charge of. So like you have coaches and teachers and parents and peer groups like demanding so much of you, but like you're not in control of a lot of it. So like this like really resonated for me as an adult. You're like, if they're not cleaning their room, get them excited about their room and like give them a redecorating budget. Or like, I was like, that would have, like, I am so motivated to keep stuff clean that I like and that's new as an adult.
Same. Same. And I remember like there was one day where my mom like got me a couple new shirts at the mall, and I like went home and cleaned my room, like organized my whole closet, because I was like so excited about these shirts. And she was like, that was the best $27 I've ever spent in my life if I knew that's all it would take for you to clean your closet. I was like,
Oh, Chelsea, I think you're brilliant. Thank you for giving me your time, especially after hours, because you're a normal person with a job. And we did this at night, and I'm incredibly grateful. You are the best. Where can people find you?
They can find me on Instagram at Chelsea, CHELSEA_explains. And on TikTok, I'm Chelsea Explains It All. One long word. And then I just made a blue sky today. I have yet to tweet. I don't know. Do they call it tweeting? I've yet to...
I don't know.
I've yet to post.
Jets. Yeah.
I couldn't even think of what it would be.
What's it called? Chemtrailing?
But I am Chelsea -explains on Blue Sky.
Okay. Awesome. Well, thank you. You're the best.
Yeah, thank you.
Everybody go follow Chelsea. I thought that was such a fun convo. I really like talking to people kind of who have the energy at the start of their creative careers, and it inspires me. And I don't know. I just am really trying to sometimes transcend I know this is easier said than done. And I only have one child, and everyone's experience is different. Caveats on caveats, guys. But I think sometimes I really have to remind myself to transcend kind of the slogging through of the schedule and minutia and like the behavioral constraints of like constantly forcing my child into my world, which is just not his world. And I really see such a difference when I get to his level, get in his world, and like I make it more about things from his perspective. And I think a lot of her content has really inspired me to do that and helped me connect a lot better. And I just genuinely appreciate it, especially because what's the opposite of the Michael Jordan of babysitting? Like I said, I just truly have I'm still like learning these skills in real time as I parent. And these are things I didn't really exercise because, yeah, I was just like eating snacks and taking names and would never get rehired. But thank you guys for listening. Support our sponsors. That's how we keep this show free on patreon.com/BeThereIn5. This week I did a mom update. I think I only cried once. Every I feel like milestone age, I'll like check in and tell people how I'm doing because it's like personal, but I also like then at the end of the episode did 30 minutes of just talking about my favorite SNL casts, my comfort SNL videos. And I made a playlist of my SNL comfort videos. I think it's like 60 videos long. When I was watching the 50th anniversary, I realized, wow, I really do watch a lot of this content in like piecemeal internet form, even if I don't always watch the full show every week. But I felt like a pop cultural touchstone to have the 50th anniversary this week. So yeah, it was fun to talk about on Patreon. But anyway, you guys, this is also actually this week Be There in 5 turned 7, which is pretty crazy. Maybe I'll talk about that at a later date. It feels like a milestone to me. It feels like a long time. I have a new fun merch drop of stuff I designed. It's only like 3 things, but I'm into it. So keep a lookout. Oh yeah, and don't forget my paperback for One Millennial is out, wherever books are sold. And I will see you next week. And as always, let me know your thoughts and I'll let you know mine. I'll be there in 5. I swear.